The Brad rules!
Let's face it, when it comes to superhero arcade games, X-Men is far and away the be-all, end-all as far as many are concerned. And I would have to agree, but what about the other ones? What about Spiderman the video game? Now you might say, Spiderman? When did he have an arcade game? He certainly had many a title on various platforms, but the arcade? The lack of awareness of this game's existence doesn't surprise me. It was rare to see this arcade cabinet, but when it would pop up somewhere, it was always a treat. But I couldn't think of a better game to talk about than Spider-Man the video game and inform those who have no clue it even exists. It's a Sega-developed game, and that alone is enough to garner attention, and it's the only Spider-Man arcade game to ever be released. And first things first, that name. There's something about it that's so strange, like it's the game. Like there were no other Spider-Man video games before it, and there were quite a few actually. Why not just call it Spider-Man the arcade game or something else? It's just a weird title. But anyway, this game is primarily a beat 'em up, and it's got quite an interesting gimmick where the game will switch to a platformer action game. So it definitely is unique. And this is a beautiful looking game. When you're in the beat 'em up scenarios, the sprites are fucking massive and detailed, and the game just looks sharp, bright, and there was definitely a lot of care put into the look of this game. But for the life of me, I can never understand why Spider-Man never had his web design on his costume in so many of his video games. Not even a few black lines, guys? I mean, really, it always looked like it was just a red and blue suit with two white eyes and nothing else. Did anyone else ever notice that? So we've also got a choice of 4 playable characters, those being the star of the show, Spider-Man, Black Cat, Hawkeye, and here's a wild card of a choice, Submariner. And believe it or not, this is the first and only time Submariner has ever been playable in a game. This is certainly an interesting choice of characters, especially since it's not like Marvel character licenses were all over the place like they are now. They literally could have gotten anybody, and yet they chose this cast of characters. But it's definitely an interesting bunch. The story sees you setting out to stop Kingpin and Doctor Doom from getting their hands on a mystical artifact, and you'll get some dialogue and short cutscenes to go along with it all. But basically, you just need to beat a bunch of people up. And you'll pummel your foes with punches, throws, jump kicks, and of course, special moves. And these special moves feel a little awkward to perform. On the ground, instead of just having to press the attack and jump button at the same time, you also have to move the control stick in the direction you're facing simultaneously, which feels very awkward. And while that might not sound too complex, go ahead and try it for yourself, and you'll see just what I mean. And you could do one in midair too, which is even more clumsy to pull off. It's just a very uncomfortable configuration to pull off these moves. There's also a real mountain of Spider-Man's best enemies here, including Venom, Scorpion, the Green Goblin, and the Hobgoblin, Electro, and Dr. Octopus. And it's pretty cool how Dr. Doom, who's really a Fantastic Four villain, gets to be featured. But there aren't any villains from Hawkeye or Submariner's neck of the woods, and quite frankly, I can see why. None would probably even be recognized by a mass audience. I'll be honest, I always get disappointed when the camera zooms out for the platforming sections because everything gets all pixelated and small, and it's obviously such a visual downgrade. Plus, one of Spider-Man's greatest foes, Dr. Octopus, gets robbed of having a big fleshed out sprite because he only appears when the camera is zoomed out. Now, that's not to say these sections are bad, because they do play quite well, and Spider-Man gets to stick to surfaces, and it offers up a nice amount of variety as to keep things feeling fresh. But they're just not as satisfying, although I really do like how Venom grows big in the first level, and the size of your sprite really plays a role in conveying Venom's massive stature. Sega had some fun incorporating the level design and gameplay into the story events, and I truly love to see it. Now, you may have noticed that my health is decreasing as the game goes on, even when I'm not getting hit. And that's because it's programmed that way. It actually won't stop doing that until it hits 1, and it goes down slowly from 400. But damn, a game that is actively killing you is just a bit odd, especially in a superhero game. If they were going to do this, why not write in a storyline to explain it? Well, this must have made arcade owners happy as people shoveled more money into the machine at a quicker rate. But seriously, that's not fair at all. Plus, if you use your special moves, you will lose health at an even faster rate. It was common for beat-em-ups to subtract health once a special move was used, but not when your health is already ticking down. This is a rather annoying feature that isn't really a problem when you're playing this on an emulator, of course, but in the arcade, it comes across as a cheap and tacky tactic of taking more credits from you. I'm guessing this was a selling point of the arcade cabinet to arcade owners, because who wouldn't want a game in their business that was partially designed to take more money from you? There's some pretty cool music in this game, and it's really funky. And some of it is actually recycled from another Sega arcade game, Quartet, which is quite an odd fact. And I absolutely love the tune that plays in the final boss fight, in which you face off against 3 Venoms. So this is quite a fun beat 'em up, but it definitely could have used a few more memorable moments like we saw in the X-Men arcade game, which featured a lot of really interesting scenarios and surprises. But Spider-Man's first and only arcade adventure is certainly a memorable one in its own right, and it stacks up pretty well despite some of its annoying qualities. This is a very good looking game with a lot to enjoy, so I greatly recommend you give it a go. It's certainly on my list of underrated arcade games and video games in general, and deserves way more attention. I truly believe with a few more touch-ups, this one would be right up there with X-Men as an all-time classic on many people's lists, and I do think it's worthy for that consideration. So that just about does it for this video, guys. Please let me know what you think in the comments down below. Have you ever played Spider-Man the video game? And if you have, what do you think? And if you never played it before, are you now convinced to give it a go? I'd love to know in the comments down below. And please subscribe if you haven't already. Click the bells to get all the notifications when I post all my new videos. I want to thank all my subscribers for your continued support. And thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you next time.